Aloha friends and welcome to today's video. Today is July 9th, 2021 and it's the new moon in Cancer. So we're planting seeds of, well, most would say compassion because Cancer is compassion, but you have to be you have to be what Cancer wants to give birth to. Cancer, cardinal water, it's getting started with something. Well, when is it that you see water indicating the start of something? How about during a time that you can't consciously remember, right before you were born, your mother's water broke? Yeah, so Cancer to me is the womb water. And even though there's no strong transits to this new moon, there are strong transits going on in the sky that now is just a good time to be aware that they're happening and to plant seeds. So here's the chart. This is where seeds are being planted. This is for the Las Vegas Valley. So how the chart will be rotated and houses are going to be different from where you're at. The Thema Mundi would have Cancer in the first house, which is kind of where I come from when I look at this. So we have this Venus here joining Mars. So it's adding to the dynamic that I was looking at a while ago when we were doing the full moon in Capricorn video. And I was questioning what was going on between Saturn, Uranus, and Chiron. So if you don't know my ponderings about Saturn, Uranus, and Chiron, go check out that video, because now we have Venus in the mix and she's adding an interesting dynamic of making things really attractive. But, you know, Venus is not always like, just because something's attractive doesn't mean it's not dangerous. There's that tiger. Oh, here, you can't see because I got you. See my tiger here? Okay, because I know Venus is in Leo. Is a tiger, not a lion, but the sun and moon are in Cancer. And in many ways, this tiger represents Cancer so much better than a crab, because people don't really think of crabs as giving birth to anything necessarily. They don't rear their young like a tiger would. But Cancer is the womb water, and it does what it does in order to protect what it's giving birth to. So a tiger, will be very fierce if it sees another tiger or a bear or a wolf. It will become very fierce and very protective and very outgoing and very active. And then when the threat is gone, it becomes so loving and so compassionate to its children. But then again, not necessarily. This is a tiger. Tiger knows how tough the world is out there. Tiger, a real Cancer, really in tune with what they want to create, might not want to create wimpy tiger babies. And tiger mama might be willing to push the cubs out of the den, because ultimately what she wants to give birth to are powerful creatures that can take care of themselves and still interact with others. So maybe that's what this transit is indicating. So I'm going to go back. Here. And I want to talk a little bit about some new ideas, right? This is a new moon. Let's talk about some new ideas. I'm still not sure what's going on with Uranus, Mars, and Saturn with the mythology, but let's take a look at some new ideas. If you haven't heard my previous video on the Thunderbolts Project, you're welcome to go check that out. I'll put links to the my two videos that I've referenced below. And here we have a still from the Thunderbolts Project movie, video, documentary, whatever. And this is illustrating their theory which is that the ancients did not have the same sky to look at. That those ancient mythologies of Saturn being a fixed, visible star or planet or sun, seeing as he was also known as Helios or Ra in some ways, in some not some ways, in some cultures, that when we talk about the ancients' sun god, that we are mistakenly thinking that it's the same sun that we see every day for half a day, and that that fixed sun that they saw every day, day in and day out at the center of the sky really might have been there. And so in this depiction, this is Saturn. And I'll just jump real quick here. The old mythology that I talked about in the full moon in Capricorn, it was Uranus who gave birth to Saturn. Saturn castrated his father, and Saturn gave birth to Chiron. But also in the myth, in a different myth, Saturn was usurped by Jupiter. So Thunderbolts Project, not that one, are willing to say that this is Saturn, and at one point something may have disrupted the configuration of the planets and actually pushed Jupiter to be in the sky. So we might have had a very Star Wars-esque like sky at one point. And here's another depiction. So we have, and why am I talking about this? Well, I'm talking about this real quick because I want to bring both Mars and Venus into the mix, because Mars and Venus are playing with Saturn through these aspects of Uranus and Chiron. But what is the dynamic of Mars and Venus together? Well, this is the Babylonian star of Ishtar, the planet Venus. But as you can see, it's not just rays coming out of a circle. This circle is defined. In fact, it's a circle with a circle inside. And here you can see the outer circle, which we're calling Saturn, these 8 rays, which I haven't explained yet. And then you might barely be able to see this circle, and that's Venus. And you can definitely see this red pupil, and that's Mars. Okay, so what's this next picture we got? This next picture we got is pretty fascinating. It looks like some sort of an aurora. So we have Mars here again, the red planet, and there's this glowing white ball around it, and then this fantastic looking aura of some sort. Well, if you look at this shape, look at that. It looks like this famous mosaic. This is the birth of Venus, birth of Aphrodite. You can see that shape in this seashell. See this seashell shape? I'm so bad with my mouse. Seashell shape. And whoops, I'm trying to go back to the other picture. Go away. Let me go to the other picture. There it is. So it really does. It looks like a seashell. So there's Aphrodite. There's our seashell. And here is some other depictions of what they think at the Thunderbolts Project may have happened in terms of the interactions between the 3 planets in our sky at the time. Those 3 planets, Saturn, Venus, and Mars. So basically what you're seeing here is Mars, in this case, moving in between the space between Venus and the space between us. And why does Venus have these crazy rays? Well, the theory is that she might not have been fully formed, or she might have been so close to Saturn or so close to Mars that there was electrical discharge. In the Thunderbolts model, they are using an electric model. So these, what we call planets, they consider to be charged particles. So while we know what a charged particle is, a charged particle is like an electron or a proton, and those are found inside of an atom. Well, if you scale it up, is basically what they're saying on a planetary level, the entire planet is a charged particle. And if two charged particles get too close to each other, there can be electrical discharge as they try to reconcile any differences in the electricity or the magnetism. And this can result in, well, the discharges, we basically view it as lightning or plasma. You know, if you've got one of those, I've always been a big fan of lava lamps. And something that commonly goes with those lava lamps are those little plasma balls. And I've never owned a plasma ball, but let me find a picture of one really quick for you guys. It's pretty straightforward. I'm sure plenty of you have seen them before. Here we go. Plasma ball all over the place. And we know when you put your fingers on it, it changes the way the electricity, those little plasma rays, mini lightning, the way that it moves changes because each of us human beings, we all have our own electrical charge. So why wouldn't the planets, and if they were to move really close to each other, might they not have interactions that create some pretty fantastic displays? I mean, we already know that Earth has its magnetic field. We have the northern lights, the aurora. That has to do with cosmic electricity and radiation coming from the sun and being deflected by our magnetic field. And so this theory is saying that the movement and the interaction of Saturn and the interaction of Venus and Mars is what created a lot of our mythology and symbolism, that when Mars got too close to the Earth, that it brought a lot of dust and sand, and as it moved away from Earth, all that dust and sand appeared to be like a tree or a pillar. A pillar is the word that we're using in this image here. And Venus, I'm not quite 100% sure on where these rays are coming from. Like I said, it's either that Venus was still forming, or she was too close to Saturn, or she was too close to Mars. It was just a lot of electrical discharge, and it would change. In these images, I've all shown you 8-pointed stars, but there's 4-pointed stars, the 4 directions, those kinds of crosses. So there's this love affair, right? There's this movement back and forth that's created all these potentially Earth affecting disasters. I mean, they talk about in the Thunderbolts Project, Mars getting so close that there's electrical discharge, there's lightning, there's plasma, there's disaster, there's dust storms from this pillar, as indicated by this pillar. And for whatever reason, we use the male and female symbols for Mars and Venus. And I see those two symbols, and typically, as a child, I'd grow up thinking battle of the sexes. You put them together, and there were like card games when I was growing up, and they had those two symbols, and it was all battle of the sexes kind of a thing. So is there a battle of the sexes going on in the world? Maybe. Is there an internal battle of one's own masculine side and one's own feminine side? Well, that's a question that I'm going to leave to each of you as individuals, because right now, Venus and Mars are both in Leo. As you can see, I've got my mouse still right there. Leo is the sign of identity, particularly self-identity, especially when you orient it over here, say in the second house. But typically, it's about this process of discovery of self-identity. And we've had a long history of battle of the sexes. And the external battle of the sexes is simply an outer reflection of our internal inability to reconcile our masculine and our feminine sides. And our masculine and feminine sides need to be reconciled, because if we don't reconcile them, we will not be able to address this wound of abandonment, this wound of not being appreciated for the magic that happens when the masculine and the feminine come together. Because when they come together, I'm like masculine and feminine, it's like electromagnetism, electricity and magnetism. They operate on a perpendicular function. Where is that coming from? That's coming from things that I've learned through the Thunderbolts Project. If electricity is going up and down, magnetism will be going left and right, perpendicular. So if we can't reconcile how they function and get them to work together, because getting the electromagnetism, masculine and feminine, to work together, that's how we get the magic of the caduceus. And the caduceus is the symbol of Mercury. Mercury's over here right now. He's not making any significant transits, but that doesn't mean he's not still important. So if we can reconcile our masculine and feminine, if we can each look inside and ask ourselves how we've constructed our personal identities around our own understanding of our inner masculine and inner feminine sides. If we can reconcile that, if we can start to really recognize that, it will open up an ease, an amplification. It'll make that wound bigger. Yes, it will hurt, because reconciliation can hurt, but it will make it easier. The ease is coming from the sextile. It'll make it bigger. It'll make the wound bigger, which will allow us to ease into letting go of what we don't need. We don't need our old ways of having masculine and feminine within ourselves fighting. We need them to play. It's about a dance. A dance has push and pull. A dance is passionate. A dance, depending on the type of dance, can put us on the edge of our toes as we move with the rhythm of the beat and let the music play itself through us. When that means letting go of those things that are inhibiting our dance from flowing. Because the dance is about being in the moment, and that's Uranus. So there's this tension. This tension. So it's like the wound has been keeping us out of the moment, and now we can bring the two together so that perhaps we can more easily let go of what we don't need and keep only that which is truly needed. But it'll be a challenge because we're still not used to being in the moment. But like I said, it will open up and ease because Chiron is the key, and that's where the real magic happens, right? He's the wounded healer. He brought magical arts, herbal healing arts. There's something super unique that each of us has to bring, and that is reconciling these two. How can I be in the moment in a structured way? Chiron knows, and Chiron knows we really need to reconcile Mars and Venus. We really need to understand all the fighting that we might have literally witnessed in the sky. So how are you going to identify? Are you going to be able to let them play? Or are they going to still fight their inner masculine and feminine sides? That's your question. And now's a good time because you practice how you play. You play how you practice. What you do every day is what you are working on mastering. So what is it in this new moon in Cancer that you want to give birth to? Mahalo.